So it is Sunday the 30th of July 2017. I'm just starting up my alternative spiritual practice of protesting against Unitarian Universalist clergy abuse, etc. outside the Unitarian Church of Montreal. And a few people have entered the church, not that many, just 2 or 3 that I've seen so far. And we'll just circulate back and forth here. I put down a few chalk slogans, and we will do a little monologue, just shutting down my radio here so it's not distracting me. Another person showing up with walking sticks. Oh, I'm not going to the church though. So anyhow, I've been trying to get in touch with the new president of the Unitarian Universalist Association, Reverend Susan Frederick Gray. I've been successful in one regard. I've been able to leave some comments on her Facebook page, which the last time I checked she hadn't deleted, which is a good thing. That essentially means that she has seen those comments, and so have anyone who's looked at those particular posts and bothered to have a look at the comments, which are very visible. But I've been unable to reach Reverend Susan Frederick Gray by phone in terms of having an actual phone conversation with her. I left a message on her messaging system, I guess it's about a week and a half ago now, maybe a little longer. And I tried to follow up on that in the last week. And the messaging system was full, so giving me a side-eyed glance. So your church misuses blasphemy law to cover up pedophilia and rape. So if you think that's something to ignore, be my guest. You're just totally ignoring the claimed principles and purposes of Unitarian Universalism. And when I say your church, I mean the Unitarian Universalist religious community in North America, specifically the Unitarian Universalist Association. So if you're happy going to a church that tries to cover up pedophilia and rape committed by Unitarian Universalist ministers and Unitarian Universalist Sunday school teachers, well, go right ahead, be my guest, be a hypocrite. So this girl gave me this sort of like disdainful glance as she walked by. She's been coming to the Unitarian Church for some time now, and it never ceases to amaze me how essentially Unitarian Universalist women don't seem to care very much about pedophilia and rape committed by Unitarian Universalist ministers and Unitarian Universalist Sunday school teachers, etc. I'd say the majority of the churchgoers at the Unitarian Church of Montreal are women, and they've ignored this protest for years, to say nothing of decades. But in terms of the overtly dealing with the Unitarian Universalist cover-up of pedophilia and rape, well, that goes back about 5 years now. So for 5 years, numerous female members of the Unitarian Church of Montreal have just totally ignored the protest, against the Unitarian Universalist Association's attempted misuse of blasphemy law in legal bullying intended to hide pedophilia and rape committed by Unitarian Universalist ministers and Unitarian Universalist Sunday school teachers, to say nothing of ordinary Unitarian Universalist lay people, such as Richard Buell of First Parish in Norwell in Massachusetts. They can just ignore the protest. They can just give me disdainful glances. They can just assault me with body checks, as Margot Ellis did a few years ago now. in the beginning of 2014. She delivered a full-on body check that knocked me right off my feet during the first Sunday of protesting in 2014. But what's interesting is that in terms of the people who were most responsible for having the Unitarian Universalist Association's Canadian attorney, Stikeman Elliott Barristers and Solicitors litigation lawyer, Maitre Marc-André Coulombe, falsely accuse me of the criminal act of blasphemous libel. Well, at least two of them are women. The person who would have sort of had the highest hands-on responsibility for this was the executive vice president of the Unitarian Universalist Association at the time. That's Kathleen K Montgomery, who had at the time been executive vice president for several decades, at least 2 to 3 decades. She had been the vice president of the Unitarian Universalist Association, and one of the things that the vice president, the executive vice president, was charged to do in their job description was to coordinate the work of the attorneys of the Unitarian Universalist Association. So any legal action and so on, any legal stuff would have been supervised directly by, if not initiated directly by Kathleen K Montgomery. The other woman who's implicated in this false blasphemous libel accusation against me, which seeks to conceal such despicable crimes as pedophilia and rape committed by certain Unitarian Universalist ministers and certain Unitarian Universalist Sunday school teachers, and at least one Unitarian Universalist layperson by the name of Richard Buell of First Parish Norwell in Massachusetts, is Rev Dr Victoria Weinstein, who was the minister of First Parish Norwell. It seems quite clear from the overall context of the cease and desist demand letter that Reverend Dr. Victoria Weinstein, also known as Peace Bang on the internet, that's her pseudonym on the internet, Peace Bang, she was involved in this misuse of blasphemy law to cover up pedophilia and rape, because essentially the only Unitarian Universalist who I'd specifically described as a pedophile, and indeed a pedophile rapist, was her parishioner, Richard Buell. And here I get this cease and desist demand letter accusing me, falsely accusing me of committing blasphemous libel for allegedly making unfounded and vicious allegations to the effect that ministers of the association engage in such despicable crimes as pedophilia and rape. Well, at the time that that cease and desist demand letter was served on me in June of 2012, the only Unitarian Universalist who I'd specifically described as a pedophile was Richard Buell. There were other pedophiles, indeed pedophile Unitarian Universalist ministers that I was aware of, some of whom had been sentenced to jail terms for their sexual abuse of children, but I hadn't actually blogged about them. The only one I blogged about, who's not a minister to the best of my knowledge, was Richard Buell, who was Peace Bang's parishioner. And Peace Bang is also implicated in other false accusations in that letter. So it's very, very clear that she was involved in this legal action, and clearly party to this attempt to misuse Canada's blasphemy law and legal bullying intended to hide pedophilia and rape. So there's two prominent Unitarian Universalist women: the Executive Vice President of the Unitarian Universalist Association, Kathleen K Montgomery, and Reverend Dr. Victoria Weinstein, formerly of First Parish Norwell. Now she's moved to a different church, I suspect as a result of First Parish Norwell getting fed up with her antics, because she's a very problematic Unitarian Universalist minister. She's constantly insulting and defaming people on the internet and engaging in various kinds of verbal and psychological abuse. To say nothing of physical abuse, she actually blogged at one point of kicking one of the children of her parishioners. A child had been caught shoplifting, and the child had convinced the police to bring the child to Rev Dr Victoria Weinstein instead of their parents, because they expected, they wanted to hide it from their parents, and they expected that Rev Dr Victoria Weinstein, I guess, would be kinder and gentler about it all. Well, according to this blog post, once the police had left and were out of sight, Peace Bang herself kicked this child twice in the butt, and according to her own testimony, very hard. So there's some physical abuse on the part of...
Can I have your address?
My address?
I'd like to come and pick at you.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
What would you say on your picket signs?
I haven't thought of it yet.
Well, maybe you should think about it before you ask for my address, but I'll give it to you so you can come and picket me with bullshit on your picket signs. Oh, you're laughing. No, this isn't bullshit. This is very true, supported by evidence. Your religious community, amongst other things. You see that chalk slogan there? Unitarians cover up and deny pedophilia and rape? Yeah. Your religious community, the Unitarian Universalist religious community in North America, as represented by the Unitarian Universalist Association in Boston, hired a Canadian lawyer to falsely accuse me of the criminal act of blasphemous libel in legal bullying that sought to intimidate me into removing blog posts that tell the readily verifiable truth.
How many years have you been doing this?
Why are you changing the subject? I'll tell you, you want to know how many years I've been doing this?
Yeah.
As many years as you foolish people have been ignoring the protest and not dealing responsibly with the reasons for the protest. That's how long. And that's 20 years. Almost. So, yeah, you're very ignorant, willfully ignorant people, in deep psychological denial about the issues that I'm protesting against. You don't want to deal with it. You just pretend nothing's wrong, and here you go. So, when you're ready, when you've got your picket signs, I'll give you my address. You can come and picket in front of my place. I'll take photos and videos and post them to YouTube. So here's this woman. Let's hear. I'm talking about women. Who basically are participants in covering up and denying pedophilia and rape in the Unitarian Universalist religious community. Well, this woman may not be a direct, active participant in the cover-up, but she's complicit in it. She sees these slogans. She sees my picket signs. She knows I've been protesting for quite some time now. She might not have known that it was heading for 20 years now, but she certainly knows that it's measured in years and not weeks and months. And she's done nothing. All she wants to do is come to my place and picket in front of my place. Well, that's fine, I don't mind, actually. I'd be happy if she and a whole bunch of other Unitarians actually did that, because they look like total idiots. I would film that and I'd put it up on YouTube, because, their claims would be total bullshit. And I'd have a field day with that if they ever came to my place and picketed. And what I find interesting too is she wants to picket my house, my abode, where I live. I'm protesting in front of an institution, a church, or so-called church. I didn't, protest in front of Rev Diane Roller's house. I could have, I didn't protest in front of the home of any other Montreal Unitarian. I'm protesting in front of the church, which has some serious problems and is a member of a larger religious community which has some serious problems. I'm not protesting in front of the homes of people. So here's this woman she'd rather start up a counter protest in front of my house than deal responsibly with the issues, the very serious issues that I'm protesting against. It just shows the incredible foolishness of these people, their willful ignorance and psychological denial. They do not want to believe that what I'm saying is truthful and supported by evidence. They don't want to believe that some children are being sexually abused by Unitarian Universalist ministers. They don't want to believe that there's anti-religious intolerance and bigotry going on, or else either that or they actually know about it and they approve of it. They basically want to keep the church unwelcoming to God-believing people and so on. So, all of the issues that I'm protesting against, are supported by evidence, very truthful. They cannot win a libel or a lawsuit against me. They will lose badly if they ever try to accuse me of libel, because everything's true. And that's probably why they haven't actually ever come to me in court on a libel accusation, although they've threatened to on various occasions, because they know that the truth will come out in court. You know, they know that in a court of law, you know, they're sworn to tell the truth, I'm sworn to tell the truth, and you be darn sure I'll be telling the truth, and I'll be supporting everything with evidence, you know, and if they lie, well, they might be in a spot of trouble, because that's called perjury. So yeah, they just, they would rather just ignore the protest, pretend nothing's wrong, and even counter-protest to pretend everything's okay. And what this woman suggested, this counter-protest, you know, coming to my place and protesting, honestly, like I said, I really would, I'd love it if she did that on her own, or if a whole gang of like 20 or 30 Unitarians did that. I'll happily give them my address if they want to come and protest. But, you know, this woman hadn't even thought of what she wants to put on her picket signs before that. But no, I'll give them the address. Maybe I'll write it in chalk on the ground here. But the point being, though, getting back to things, is there was a time when the Unitarian Church of Montreal actually did counter-protest against my protest. They did it right here. They created what they call a positive picketing campaign. And what happened is a good number of members of the Unitarian Church of Montreal would come out when I'm protesting, and they'd have like nicey nice stuff on their picket signs about Unitarian Universalist principles. You know, the inherent worth and dignity of every person, justice, equity, and compassion and human relations, you know, Unitarian Universalist principles and ideals and so on. And so they're just saying, oh, we're nice, we believe in all this stuff. Well, the whole point I'm